Nothing Stops Paul Revere by Marcella Fisher Anderson. Rachel's voice rose up the stairway. Why can't a younger man carry this message in the dead of night? You have 7 children, Paul Revere. Yes, and it is for them I ride. Sarah sat up in bed. Quietly she crept to the stairs. Under the railing she watched her father and stepmother in the cold light of the rising April moon. I can't understand why you're always the one sent. Ride to New York, ride to Philadelphia, and now tonight, ride to Lexington. Maybe I'm the best rider the Patriots have. Sarah's father chuckled and ran his finger down his wife's cheek. Sarah drew back. Rachel Walker had been her stepmother for only a year and a half. Sarah was 12 now in this year of 1775 and remembered her own mother very well. She remembered her father making that very same gesture to her. Sarah tried to swallow the sudden tightness in her throat. She started quietly back up the stairs. Be careful then, Paul, Rachel said gently. Sarah leaned forward again. Just in time, she saw the door quietly closing and their dog's tail disappearing through the narrowing opening. Sarah could not help herself. Rachel, she whispered. Dog went out too. Rachel spun around. What? Sarah? The dog! Rachel glanced at Dog's sleeping place by the hearth. Oh dear. Yes, well, he'll be back by morning. I can't risk opening the door again. It's nearly bright as day out there, and time for the British night patrols to be out. You might as well come down, she went on briskly. We'll have a cup of mint tea. There's a blanket by the fire. As Sarah lifted the steaming mug, she watched Rachel. Rachel was different from her own mother. More spirited, perhaps. Sarah sat down her mug and smiled. Her own mother would never have stood up to her father that way. Still, Sarah's heart ached when she thought of her. Would it never stop aching? While Rachel was up in the bedroom tending to the crying of baby Joshua, Sarah heard a scratch at the door. What could it be? Dare she open the door when Rachel had already cautioned her against it? Scratch. Carefully, Sarah slid the bolt. With a chill blast of air, Dog ran in and sat panting at Sarah's feet. A rolled piece of paper hung from his collar. Sarah untied it just as Rachel came down the stairs. Read it, Sarah. Sarah unrolled the note. She read it aloud. Tie my spurs to Dog's collar and send him back to me. Father's spurs! Get them quickly, Sarah. Sarah tripped out twice over the corner of her blanket as she hurried to the back room. Her father's spurs hung from a wall peg and shone in the moonlight. Rachel ripped the nether sash from her apron and handed it to Sarah. Tie them now, hurry! Can you imagine forgetting his spurs? Sarah's fingers were all thumbs. At last she made a final knot. She scooted Dog to the door and opened it quietly. 2 men were walking down the street. Sarah knew they were Tories. She dared not make the noise of the latch clicking, so she held the door open barely a crack and waited. What fools these colonists are, Sarah could hear through the door. Thinking they can fight their king's finest troops. Tomorrow may be their chance to find out what they're up against. The voices faded. Sarah wondered where the British patrols were tonight. What did the men mean about tomorrow? She held her breath and opened the door again. The street was empty. Then she slapped Dog on his hindquarters. Now go, she whispered urgently. Go back to father. Through the crack, Sarah watched Dog as he ran out into the street. Tail waving, he turned into the direction of Charles River. With her heart still pounding, Sarah went over to the fire. She poked the embers and sat with the blanket around her. She had no thought of sleep now, and she knew that Rachel would stay awake also. Still, as the hours passed, she slept fitfully, waking at last to the sound of Rachel crying softly. Sarah did not know how to comfort her. She left her place by the fire and walked over to the small window. It was nearly morning. In the early light, she saw the apple trees in bloom, the grass greening in the yards. I see it now, she said aloud. What do you see? Asked Rachel, wiping her cheek. The dawn. I see that you love him too. Rachel crossed the floor so quietly that Sarah hardly heard her till she stood behind Sarah. He is a joy of my life, as you are a joy of his. Sarah felt hot tears on her own cheeks. Then she turned to Rachel, who held her close. A scratching sound came at the door. Sarah rushed to open it. Dog bounded into the room. His collar was empty. Rachel sat quickly in a chair and laughed. "All is well," she said to Sarah. "Once he is on horseback, nothing will stop Paul Revere."